A happy life. This is Grandpa. He was a respectable man because of his sense of humor and positive outlook on life. This is seen through his reminiscing of his military experiences, his success of overcoming challenges as an orphan, and his personality resemblance in the message of the song, Keep Your Head Up. Summer of 2008, he embarked on a new journey. He never experienced a plane ride before, let alone an 8-hour flight across the country to Canada where he couldn't understand any bit of the language. I waited for you patiently at home, nervous because I didn't know what type of person you were yet or how our relationship would be. He walked through the door with his eyes wide open and full of joy, amazed with how successful his daughter is. I sat on the stairs nervously, waiting to greet you. I got up to shake your hand, and you just laughed and gave me a huge hug. He instantly strengthened our relationship from that moment. He then proceeded throughout the house, observing each room carefully. You finally sat down at the kitchen table and said, I just flew 8 hours to see you guys. Someone pour me a drink, Grandpa. I sat at the table as long as I could, watching you and Dad drink and listening to the crazy stories and adventures you lived through as a kid. He was a man of military background, which is often stereotyped as mean, strict, and short tempered, but he was the exact opposite. He was born on June 9th, 1945, in the small town of Sinai in Poland. Growing up without parents was extremely tough for him. He had nobody to look up to, which led him to some early life struggles. The orphanage treated him well, but he didn't treat him well, but he didn't let it affect the man he wanted to become. From a young age, he had to learn how to protect himself and learn to only depend on himself, which made him so strong and have a different perspective on life than most. Grandpa grew up with so much freedom, which meant most of his decisions he had to make were on his own. The first life lesson story he told me was about a situation when he was only 14 years old. He was offered beer by the older kids from the orphanage. He took the beer and proceeded to drink with the older guys, even though he knew it was prohibited inside the orphanage. And in the back of his mind, he knew the consequences wouldn't be pleasant if the owner found out. The next morning, he was awoken by the sound of loud banging on the door. Startled and scared, he ran and opened the door to see the owner three standing there with empty bottles of beer in her hand. The next 2 weeks consisted of cleaning every room in the house, picking all the weeds from the garden, doing all the dishes after each meal, and the worst one of all, no after school activities. This was one of many lessons he went through as a child, but most importantly, he told me to never let a situation affect me negatively because everything happens for a reason and God will never put you through a test that you cannot handle. So always have faith that you will be stronger in the long run. At age 18, Grandpa graduated high school and was immediately forced into the army because it was mandatory for all men post World War II. He remembered the first day so vividly, walking into the bunker and setting down his belongings on the bed. As he lifted his head, he banged it on the bunk bed above, but he just smiled and laughed it off, a typical reaction from Grandpa. The experience as a whole was life changing, he said, waking up each morning at 5 a.m. and going on a run. Then he would return and wait the longest for showers because he was the youngest. Next was kitchen duty, which he said sucked the most. He would sit there for hours and hours of the day just peeling away at hundreds of potatoes to make sure there was enough to go around for all the troops by dinner time. Other days were spent cleaning out the guns and making sure there were no bullets jammed inside. He said that although he was never put into the battle, he still felt like a huge part of the army. Grandpa proceeded to look at me and ask if I ever forgot to make my bed. Mom overheard and instantly laughed and said, You rarely make your bed, Marcel. Zajac. This made me feel pretty embarrassed because I could tell Grandpa got a little angry. He told me that the first and worst lesson he experienced in the army was when he forgot to make his bed in the morning. 5 a.m. hit and he slowly got out of bed and put on his uniform. He observed the room and noticed his friend was still sleeping. He didn't want to get him in trouble, so he ran over and woke him up. The commander walked in and ordered all the men outside to begin their jog. And just as they were about to walk out the door, they heard a loud yell. Hold on! Whose bed is this, Commander? Grandpa's heart dropped, he said. He knew it was his. He slowly stepped out of line and owned up to it. He walked over, made his bed in shame in front of the commander, and walked outside after to get ready for the run. But that's not what happened. Grandpa said all 30 troops lined up for the run, but he was pulled out of it. The troops proceeded to run as Grandpa got in the car with the commander, where they trailed behind them, and he was forced to yell whatever the commander told him into the microphone. They also had to run an extra 2 miles. The painful lesson wasn't over yet, he said. When he got back to the bunker, there was a huge roll of tape on his bed, which made him confused. One of the older troops walked up to him and told him to take off his shirt. He took the tape, and each troop ripped off a strip and placed it on almost every area of Grandpa's body. He said the slow pain of the tape being ripped off is something he will always remember. Grandpa was always looking to do some sort of work around the house when he visited. At age 63, I was expecting him to have low energy all the time and to always just be sitting there watching TV all day, but not Grandpa. Every morning, he came into my room to wake me up for school. Marcel, why are you still sleeping? Let's get the day started. We would start off our morning with Grandpa attempting to pick out my outfit for school, but I never liked what he chose for me, so I would wait until he went downstairs so I could choose my own outfit. I would then walk downstairs where he always made me help him with breakfast. That made me mad because I didn't get to watch my show, but I never said anything. He would walk me to my bus stop and wave as far as he could see the bus go. Then he would go for a walk around the park each morning, just enjoying nature and the scenes around him. When the bus would drop me back off after school, Grandpa would always be standing in the same spot, beside the mailbox and slightly leaning over on it. He always had the biggest smile on his face uh, when I walked off the bus. He would try and carry my school bag for me, but I wouldn't let him because I wanted to show that I was capable of it myself. When we would get home, Grandpa would usually pick up the newspaper and read for a couple hours, talk about stereotypes. Nighttime was the best. Grandpa would walk over to the shelves and reach for the chessboard with his short 5'6" frame reaching as high as he could. He would place the board down, take out his glasses, and call me over. Marcel, it's time for me to show you why I'm still the master at chess. You could feel the mood in the room change. We were both extremely competitive, and it was a no mercy type of game. His calm face and slow movements always got me angry inside. Whenever I felt like I made such a strong move, he would smirk and counter it so smoothly, like he wanted me to go there the whole time. He never let me win, but I never expected him to because he said if he did that, I would only be cheating myself. My mom loved her relationship with Grandpa. She told me how he was in a good mood most of the time, but you never want to get on his bad side. Since he didn't grow up with much, he also never really complained about anything. Grandpa knew what it was like to have nothing, so for him just to be able to have a close, loving family was enough to give him a positive perspective on any challenges that he came across in life. Mom says that's why Grandpa was such an honorable person. He was always mentally strong enough to look past the bad and turn it into something good. And even when there was times he was struggling, he tried to hide it as much as he possibly could with a smile on his face. My mom talked highly of my grandpa because he was such a positive figure in her life. This hopefulness led me to choosing a song written by Andy Grammer. The song Keep Your Head Up greatly resembles my grandpa because my grandpa purely through the uplifting tone of the song. In Andy Grammer's lyrics, he explains how life isn't always easy, just as my grandfather's life was not always easy. The struggles for money and to survive are both problems my grandpa dealt with in his life journey, which is also touched upon in the song. Although these are huge downfalls, giving up or being depressed were not options for my grandpa. The song displays the courage to be positive and happy. This is the exact lesson I received from learning about my grandfather. My grandpa was a respectable man through his ability to find the bright side in situations. This is seen in his childhood storytelling and relation to the song "Keep Your Head Up." Although I didn't know him for very long, he taught what is truly valuable in life: to always have a positive attitude even in hardships. I will always cherish the many memories we made together, and hopefully one day I can be remembered for sharing this same quality throughout my life experiences.